Hello and Sophia, welcome back to Reading Hour with Trish and M. Because Heidi is not here right now, because she is, I don't even know where she is. But Heidi, I'm going to send this to you as well, so you will not feel left out. And since you never texted me, I didn't know where you were, so I'm just going to guess. I hear you get back tomorrow, so says a whispering voice to my right, but we'll just go ahead and record this anyway and see what happens, okay? So I'm just going to go find it in my little book and load it, and here we go. Okay, so to recap, as we do in all of our stories, what's his face? I forget his name at the moment. Van something or other had a horrible time at the concert and was very upset, and that girl had that insipid little whatever guy that was wandering around, and the only way he could get spirited was to go get to drink something he oughtn't to, and she has this whole argument with her cousin. And she says, go invite him so I can meet him. And he's like, he doesn't want to, ha ha ha. And she's like, oh yeah, well, you know what, to pot with him. And then they're both like, to pot with each other. They both ignore each other and stuff. And so Ike, the player guy who just sits around and drives horses and eats all the time or whatever, just told the artist her name. So it's like Ida Mayhew, which to me, honestly, is not as beautiful as she sounds, but that's what he said, so we'll just go with it. Okay, now that we've all been caught up, we are on to Chapter 3. And Sophia, I was laughing at this because it's called An Artist's Freak. And I was like, what? Does he have a little monster in the closet? Does he have a friend? Is Ike going to do something weird? Okay, so here we go. Here we go. I'm going to try reading it this way because it's too hard to read that way. I can't read it fast enough. Okay, here we go. Van Berg's night key admitted him to a beautiful home, which he now had wholly to himself, since his parents and sister had sailed for Europe early in the spring, intending to spend the summer abroad. Pause, interjection by Emily. He was rich, remember that. The young man had already traveled and studied for years in the lands naturally attractive to an artist, and it was now his purpose to familiarize himself more thoroughly with the scenery of his own country. On reaching his own apartment, he took down a prosy book, that he might read himself into that condition of drowsiness which would render sleep possible. But sleep would not come, and the sentences were like the passers-by in the street, whom we see but do not note, and for whose coming and going we know not the reasons. Between himself and the page he saw continually the exquisite features and the exasperating face of Ida Mayhew. At last he threw aside the book, lighted a cigar, and gave himself up to the reveries to which this beautiful but discordant visage so strongly predisposed him. Its perfection in one respect, its strongly marked imperfection in another, both appealed equally to his artistic and thoughtful mind. At one moment it would appear before him with an ideal loveliness such as had never blessed the eye of his fancy even. But while he yet looked, the features would distort themselves into the vivid expression of some contemptible trait, so like what he had seen in reality during the evening that, in uncontrollable irritation, he would start up and pace the floor. His uncurbed imagination conjured up all kinds of weird and grotesque imagery. He found himself commiserating the girl's features. That means like, there, you poor things. As if they were high-toned captives, held in degrading bondage by a spiteful little monster. Oh my God, that is so awesome. That delighted to put them to low and menial uses. To one of his temperament, such beauty as he had just witnessed, controlled by and ministering to some of the meanest and pettiest of human vices, was like Mary Magdalene when held in thraldom by 7 devils. Whoa, he's really not. Okay, let's just say it a little more delicately. I can't believe you're just, okay. That was Emily, not somebody else, okay. A cool and matter-of-fact person could scarcely understand Van Berg's annoyance and perturbation, yes, that thing. Annoyance and angryness and upsettedness. If a true artist were compelled to see before him a portrait that required only a few skillful touches in order to become a perfect likeness, and yet could not give those touches, the picture would become a constant vexation, and the better the picture, the nearer it approached the truth, the deeper would be the irritation that all should be spoiled through defects for which there was no necessity. In the face that persistently haunted him, Van Berg saw a beauty that might fulfill his best ideal, and he also saw just why it did not and never could until its defects were remedied. He felt a sense of personal loss that he should have discovered a gem so nearly perfect and yet marred by so fatal a flaw. The next day was all the same. The face of Ida Mayhew interposed itself before everything that he sought to do or see. Whether it were true or not, it appeared to him that in all his wanderings and observations he had never seen features so capable of fulfilling his highest conception of beauty, did they but express the higher qualities and emotions of the soul. He also felt that never before had he seen a face that would seem to him so hideous in its perversion. Well then, tell it how you really feel it, buddy. He threw down his brush and palette in despair, and again gave himself up to his fancies. He then sketched in outline the beautiful face as expressing joy, hope, courage, thought, or love, but was provoked to find that he ever obtained the best likeness when portraying the vanity, silliness, or petulance which had been the only characteristics he had seen. He now grew metaphysical, and tried to analyze the girl's mind. He sought to grope mentally his way back into the recesses of the soul, which had looked, acted, and spoken the previous evening. A strange little place he imagined it, and oddly furnished. It occurred to him that it bore a resemblance to her dressing-room, and was full of queer feminine mysteries and artificial ideas that had been created by conventional society, rather than inspired by nature. He asked himself, can it be that here is a character in which the elements of a true and good woman do not exist? Has she no heart, no mind, no conscience worthy of the name? At her age, she cannot have lost these qualities. Have they never been awakened? Do they exist to that degree that they can be aroused into controlling activity? I suppose there can be pretty idiots, as people are born blind or scrofulous, which I looked up because I had no idea what the heck that meant. Scrofulous means prone to disease and like falling to bits from it. I was like, whoa. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's, as people are born blind and scrofulous. So there you go, guys. New word for the day. So, I suppose others can be born devoid of heart or conscience, inheriting from a degenerate ancestry sundry mean and vile propensities in their places. Human nature is a scale that runs both up and down, and it is astonishing to see how far the extremities can be apart. But how high is it possible for the same individual to rise in this scale? I imagine we are all prone to judge of people as if they were finished pictures, and to think that the defects of our first scrutiny discovers will remain for all time. It is in real life as much as in fiction. From first to last, a villain is a villain, as if he had been created one. The heroine is a moss rosebud by equal and unchanging necessity. Is this girl a fool? And will she remain one by any innate compulsion? By Jove! I would like to see her again in the searching light of day. I would like to follow her career sufficiently long to discover whether nature has been guilty of the grotesque crime of associating inseparably with that fine form and those exquisite features, a hideous little mind that must go on intensifying its dwarf deformity until death snuffs it out. If this be true, the beautiful little monster that is bothering me so suggests a knottier problem to wiser heads than mine. Somewhat later, his musings led him to indulge in a broad laugh. Possibly, he said aloud. She is a modern and fashionable Undine, and has never yet received a woman's soul. The good Lord deliver me from trying to awaken it, as did the knight of old in the story, by swelling the long list of her victims. I could scarcely imagine a more pitiable and abject creature than a man, once sane and sensible, enthralled him to such a tantalizing semblance of a woman. She would no more appreciate his devotion than the jackdaw the pearl necklace it pecked at. No. I fear my Undine theory won't answer. Stanton says she has no heart, and her face and manner confirm his words. But now I think of it, the original Undine lived a long time ago. This guy, he really needs to get saved, that's all I'm saying, okay? In the age of primeval simplicity, whoa, when even cool-blooded water nymphs had hearts. Well, obviously this is a sound reasoning, everyone, as we can all see by the fact that he is definitely using his brain. No, he's not. Okay. One is induced to think, in our age, that this organ will eventually disappear with the other characteristics of ancient and undeveloped man, and that the brain, or what stands for it, will become all in all. It's true. Like, interjection again, C.S. Lewis said that there were people that literally said people would grow out of their hearts, that they wouldn't need them anymore, that the mind would become all. There's actually people who put that forth, like in the 50s or whatever. And he's like, yeah, and you know what that's called? It's called men without chests. And basically what he was saying, what he meant was men without hearts. And when you don't have a heart, like, everything that a guy is totally flops out the window, because everyone's like, oh, his strength or his mind or whatever, but it's not. What makes a man so great is that he has a heart, because only men have hearts, like, that actually work, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Monkeys do not have hearts. Apparently, real ones, metaphorically speaking. So, anyway, so it's funny that I think the guy who's writing this is putting this in here to show what people are thinking at that time. In the first instance, the woman's soul came in through the heart, but I suppose that in the case of a modern Undine, it would enter most readily through the head. I wonder if there is something like an unawakened maid sleeping under that broad, low brow that mocks one with its fair intellectual outline. I wonder if it would be possible to set her thinking, and so eventually render her capable of receiving a woman's soul. As it is now, she seems to possess only certain disagreeable feminine propensities. One might engage in such an experiment as a philosopher rather than a lover, or, what is more to my purpose, as an artist. By Jove, I would half like to make the attempt. It would give zest to one's summer vacation. Well, what is to hinder? Now I think of it, she remarked that she was to spend the season at the lake house, not far from the Hudson, a place well suited to my purposes. There are wild highlands on one side, and a soft pastoral country on the other. I could there find abundant opportunity for varied studies in scenery, and at the same time beguile my idle hours at the hotel with this face of marvelous capabilities and possibilities. The features already exist, and would be beautiful if the girl were dead. Oh my goodness, this guy. Well, now he's using his cool mind, that's for sure, okay. And they could be no longer distorted by the small vices of the spirit back of them. They might become transcendently beautiful, could she in very truth receive the soul of a true and thoughtful woman, a soul such as makes my mother beautiful in her plain old age. I'm inclined to follow this odd fancy. The girl is a rara avis, such as never flown across my path before. I shall have a quarrel with nature all my life if I must believe she can fashion a face capable of meaning so much, and yet actually meaning so little, and that little disgusting. After a few moments of deep thought, he again started to his feet and commenced pacing his studio. Suppose, he soliloquied, or however you pronounce that, because I don't care and I don't know. I attempt a novel bit of artistic work as my summer recreation. Suppose I take the face of this stranger instead of a piece of canvas, and try to illumine it with thought, with womanly character and intelligence. If I fail, as I probably shall, no harm will be done. If her silliness and vanity are ingrained and essential parts of her nature, she shall learn that there is at least one man who can see her as she is, and whose heart is not wax on which to stamp her pretty and senseless image. If I only partially succeed, if I discern she has a mind, but so feeble that it can only half reclaim her from her weakness and folly, still something will be accomplished. Her features are so beautiful that should they come to express even the glimmerings of that which is admirable, the face will be, in part, redeemed. But if, by some happy miracle, as in the instance of the original Undine, a mind can be awakened that will gradually prepare a place for the soul of a true woman, I shall accomplish the best of my work, even estimated from an artistic point of view. Possibly, for my reward, she will permit me to paint her portrait as a souvenir of our summer's acquaintance. It did not take Van Berg long to complete his arrangements for leaving town. He wrote a line to his friend Stanton, saying that he proposed spending a few weeks in the vicinity of the Highlands on the Hudson, and that he could not say when he would be at his rooms or at home again. The afternoon of the following day found him a passenger on a fleet steamboat, and fully bent upon carrying out his odd, artistic freak. Well, jolly good, man, you strange person, you. Well, that was a quick one, so I guess we will continue on then, Sophia and Heidi. We will see you next time.